My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this is News from the Can. If you've been watching the news lately, you've noticed that, or you've seen that we've had some major snowfall this year. This is between December 7th and December 8th. We've had some pretty dramatic snowfall. Somebody who's covering this pretty well, Adapt 2030, I always watch this guy. His contention is about, this is about the grand solar minimum, the solar cycles driving temperature, and things like that. Now, here's a wrinkle, though. I'm watching his latest video, and he's talking about these large snow events in Alaska, something called atmospheric compression snow event. He's talking about snowfall in the desert and areas of Texas. So we've had snowfall that's come all the way across from New Mexico all the way up to New York. And you see this big blob of snow here, but basically it's this big snow line that just came down. And it's pretty heavy snowfall. We're talking about, in some cases, the compression snow event that he was talking about in Alaska. I think he said it was 10 inches an hour or something they were getting. It was some pretty dramatic snowfall. But anyway, so he's going on, and he brought up a website that I haven't seen yet. I'm not that familiar with, climatereanalyzer.org. So I'm giving you a heads up on that. Link will be in the description. He's talking about this dramatic snowfall event. They have this atmospheric compression snow event happening in Alaska, and we've got all this major snowfall. But what's really interesting about this is this cold patch down here. But I'm watching this, and I'm listening to him, and he's talking about this grand solar minimum, everything like that. But we noticed that up here in Greenland and in the upper reaches of Canada and Alaska and so forth, these temperatures are anomalously high. So I went to Climate Reanalyzer to check it out for myself. That's climatereanalyzer.org. And what you're seeing here is you're seeing temperatures that are between 10 and 30 degrees above average. See that little sliver of pink there? 20-ish. Well, it's in the high 20s. Here and here. And all this red. And this, you can see the darker colors in here. So we're talking about temperatures that are between 10 and 20 degrees. It looks like Celsius. Well, here it says Arctic is 4.6. Now that's an average, 4.6 degrees above average. You'll definitely want to go and check out this website, climatereanalyzer.org, climatereanalyzer.org. This is important. Okay, we're having all this snow down here. We have something called I believe it's called what they refer to as a cross-polar blast of cold air. And that's what you see right here. It looks like this is like a channel that opens up, that flows down like this. This is something that I covered in one of my videos, the Armageddon line. Essentially, something that Art Bell and Whitley Strieber wrote a book about. The Coming Global Superstorm is the name of the book. And what they talked about was that ice ages can come suddenly, and the trigger, according to them, and I could have done a little bit of a better job explaining this in the video, but I think you'll get it. There's a lot of things in play, but basically what happens is you have the Arctic Circle has something called a polar high, a high pressure zone that basically goes over the North Pole. You have your cold, dense air, and it's a big bubble of cold air that exists over the North Pole. So what we're seeing with these methane releases and things like that is now, according to the big sources, according to them, there's no methane feedback loop happening. So who can you trust today, really, to tell you the truth about anything? But one of the big things that they've been talking about since the 70s and 80s, that long, believe it or not, is that temperatures would rise in the northern regions in the Arctic temperatures. And so what we have it's something that's been in the news for a long time, since 2012, was anomalously high temperatures in the Arctic. And so with methane releases and things like that, the ground temperature actually stays high because of the metabolic action lower down in the soil, and that can cause temperatures to remain anomalously high, and you have more carbon dioxide releases, and and more water vapor in the air and things like that. And what it does is it creates a temperature inversion. So you have a cold, high pressure dome that normally exists over the Arctic Circle, but suddenly you have these anomalously high temperatures near the surface, and it creates a temperature inversion. And one of the things that they kind of sort of discussed, Whitley Strieber and Art Bell in their book, The Coming Global Superstorm, is that this temperature inversion would flip, the bubble would burst, and that cold air in this Arctic region would suddenly dive down and shoot across the landscape and cause massive amounts of precipitation, freezing precipitation to fall, which is kind of similar to what we're seeing right now. It's tantalizingly close to what essentially they described and what I described in my video, The Armageddon Line. Here you have what's obviously a temperature inversion, anomalously high between 10 and really, if you see, that's like pink in there, between 10 and 30 degrees C above normal temperatures right now today, December 9th, 2017, right here, southeastern Alaska and upper, this upper western northwest Canada region right here, and then this Greenland area here. These regions are anomalously warm, but you have this, what looks like a river of cold air has dumped out and come down, made a channel right across the continental United States, and brought with it an ass pile of snow, an anomalously large quantity of snow, meanwhile we have all these fires going on in California. So the fires, I just looked at this the other day, and it just looks like frickin' doomsday, man. Saw some video, Wilshire Boulevard, and the signs talking about somebody driving. I don't remember what road they were driving down, but it was in a populous area of California. Just frickin' ridiculous. Look at that, just frickin' ridiculous, man. I mean, it just literally looks like, look at that, my God, it just literally looks like doomsday happening. So, and this is one of the things that they talk about, with rapid climate change. And something I've been harping on for a long time is that it all happens at the same time. You have catastrophically high temperatures in some areas, and you have catastrophically low temperatures in other areas. But the common thread is anomalously low precipitation in some areas, and anomalously high precipitation in other areas. Anomalously low precipitation in some times in some areas, and anomalously high precipitation in other areas. And it's indicative of these anomalous temperature differentials. You have to look at what happens with the air currents when there's not much of a differential between the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Snow cover C. This has got so much data in it. It's just incredible. This site is awesome, and I've never seen this before, and I want to thank Adapt 2030 for bringing it up. I don't buy everything the guy said. He kind of harps on the same shit all the time, which it's his thing, and that's cool, and he's always selling seeds, and cause it's another doomsday deal. But I like the guy. I mean, I don't know why. He can be annoying, but I kind of like him anyway. And I kind of he's stepping with some stepping with the data. But I want to thank him for introducing me to this site here, which is pretty freaking awesome. They got it all here. So, and that's what we need. When opinions are like assholes. Nobody wants to hear about the frickin' opinions. Enough already. Enough editorialization. Enough already with it. Let's get to the data. And so the sites that are stepping with the data, that's what I want to see. I want to see the frickin' data. And this right here, this doesn't necessarily go along with the whole, it's all about the sun thing, which is what Adapt 2030. He's saying, well, the sun is the driver of climate change, solely the driver of climate change. So I say it's everything. Okay, it's our position in the galaxy, it's our orbital position and the oscillations and the energy output of the sun, it's everything. You got to fit this, a whole puzzle, you got to put it all together. And, you know, greenhouse gases are not necessarily a trivial part of that picture, especially when you're talking about, you know, methane releases and things like that. So this is something, like I said, this is something that Art Bell and Whitley Strieber, it's kind of in their book. You got to read it. And of course they go on, they start talking about the Anunnaki and shit like that, you know. And it's like, you know, guys, come on, just, you know, if that was just that. When I first read the book, I read it, I don't know, back, it was probably 2005, late 2005, somewhere in there that I read their book, and it had been out for a while. It's the book that they made The Day After Tomorrow out of. You know, which, you know, Hollywood, of course, just took that and just turned it into, you know, you just made it look ridiculous. And then, of course, you had Guy McPherson coming in talking about we're going to turn into Venus. You know what I'm saying? Well, you know, it's just, you just can't say that. Just because of the rotation rate of the Earth and how much water there is, and, you know, water has a tendency, yeah, okay, it's a greenhouse gas, but when it gets, you know, when there's a lot of water vapor in the air and it turns into clouds and you have shading, and, you know, it's just really complicated, and you just can't say that the Earth is going to turn into Venus, you know. But my whole contention with, you know, with his thing, you know, he's always bringing up the Great Dying and stuff like that, and just to reiterate with that one more time, you know, you don't, the Great Dying was caused by a meteor hit on one side of the Earth that caused a ripple to go, you know, to travel across the Earth, you know, a big giant ripple, and it met at the Siberian steppes on the other side of on the antipodal side of the planet, and popped that area on the Siberian steppes like a zit. You know what I mean? And spewed out over a period of I don't know how many years. It was a while, but it spewed out 4 trillion tons of sulfur dioxide, you know, hydrogen sulfide, you know, H2SO4 producing, that's acid. H2SO4 produces a 0 pH acid. Okay, so it's very acidic. And also about 1.6 trillion tons of carbon as well. So, you know, yeah, and there was, you know, that the continents started moving apart and everything else. So, you know, eventually the oceans had the acidity of lemon juice, and 96% of all life in the ocean died out. They call it the Great Dying. So basically, no H2S, no SO2, no Permian, no PTM, you know, no thermal maximum. It's just not going to happen, because you have to have the acidity and the carbon, and it's just more, you know, we don't have the elements. We don't have enough of the elements for us to have a Great Dying of that level. Now, there's a lot of, you know, extinction of that. You could call it the 6th extinction just because of what we're doing to the planet. That's bad enough, and hell yeah, we need to do something about it. But it's not out of our hands. I really don't believe that, and I don't, you know, I think that he's wrong for doing that. For, you know, Guy McPherson, he basically says we're doomed, you know, and I just don't see that. But anyway, this is it. Here we have the anomalously high temperatures in the Arctic and a gigantic-ass snowstorm forming down below because of a river of cold air. This is like textbook of what these guys were talking about, you know, and what has been talked about since the 80s. So you can look at some of my other videos. I'm just, you know, bringing this up again, and I want to point everybody out there to go and look at these sites. Climate Reanalyzer, any of these guys that are, you know, doing this kind of material, Mr. MMB 333, he does a lot of really cool stuff. He's always got his finger on the pulse of a lot of interesting stuff going on. Meteor showers, solar activity, you know, you name it. There's a bunch of stuff out there that's really, you know, it's just amazing. We live in an amazing time. Anyway, I do not believe in sowing the seeds of hysteria, you know. There's no point in that. Human beings are survivors. Whatever the fuck happens, pardon my French, whatever happens, we're going to deal with it. And that's all there is to it. You know, so anyway, it's always a good idea. You know, the one thing that this guy talks about, he talks about being prepared food-wise, being able to grow food. One thing, type of food you might want to think about is potatoes. Potatoes, you can get more per acre or more per volume of soil, more nutrients per volume of soil out of potatoes than just about anything else you could possibly grow. So that's something to think about. My name is R. Crosby Lyles. This has been News from the Can. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Take care of yourself. And don't get hysterical. Get the data. Get the facts. Facts talk. Bullshit walks. That's all I got. Thanks for watching.